There is a certain inevitability to online fan bases, especially when a new popular game steps into the territory of an established one. People pick their sides, they draw their lines, the digital trenches are dug. HoYo shells, Kuro bots, Box 2 hate watchers. It's tribalism, right? And all it takes is a single spark to start a war. Recently, that spark came in the form of a massive, messy, multi-day dumpster party on Twitter. The entire war, all of the quote tweets, all of the video essays, all of the, frankly, adults screaming at each other, was fought over one single, completely undefined word: depth. Specifically, the combat depth of Wuthering Waves versus Genshin Impact. And it was a spectacle. We saw the initial hot take tweets that were designed to be grenades. We saw 42-minute-long video responses. We saw other alleged content creators chime in to add their nuanced take. We saw the original tweeter get absolutely checkmated on his Genshin points, completely ignore it, and then come back to declare victory by moving the goalpost so far they left the stadium. It was a masterclass in, Twitter. Let's leave it at that, I guess, right? But this video is not just about recapping the drama, because that is the easy part. That is just pointing at the fire. The drama is the noise. The signal is the question underneath it all. Wow. Why this topic? Why did combat depth cause such a complete fundamental meltdown? What is combat depth? Who actually has it? Why did Saint Tontus cut his hair? And why are both sides so completely, utterly unable to talk to each other? It is like one side is speaking English and the other side is just... But to answer all of that question, we have to do the one thing the dumpster party refused to do. We have to ignore the cope, we have to ignore the shilling, we have to call out the hypocrisy, and we have to actually define our terms. But before we get into that, if you like to see more of these videos, make sure to hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, because that helps out the channel a lot. But let's start with the tweet that lit the match, right? This person says, quote, "We really need to stop pretending that Wuwa's combat is deep. You memorize the enemy's moveset and parry timings, and that's it." Hold on, I know what you're thinking, and that's it. That's crazy, am I right? Just 3 words, but it's a complete dismissal of, well, the entire action game genre. He then contrasts this with Genshin, which he claims to have depth. Now this right here, this is the entire problem. This isn't just a hot take, it is intellectually dishonest. It is what's known as a category error. This person is confusing 2 very different things: complexity and depth. They are not the same. Complexity is the how. It is the number of rules. It is the stuff in the game. It is the list of ingredients on the back of the box. How many elements are there? How many character kits, weapons, status effects? It is all the information you have to look up on a wiki. A game with high complexity is hard to learn. Keyword hard to learn, okay? Depth, on the other hand, is the why. It is the consequence of all of those rules. Do all of those moving parts actually matter? Do they lead to meaningful choices, or is it just junk? If complexity is the list of ingredients, depth is the cookbook. Does the game give you 1,000 ingredients and only 1 recipe for toast? Or does it give you 10 ingredients and let you cook a 5-star meal out of it? Depth is the skill ceiling. That long journey you can spend 1,000 hours climbing to get better. A game with high depth is hard to master. Again, remember the keywords here. Complexity is hard to learn. Depth is hard to master. I'm gonna give you some examples here, right? You can have a game with extremely high complexity and very low depth. Think of an RPG with 1,000 different swords. That is complex. But if 999 of them are useless because one sword is the best and the gap is not even close, that is shallow. That best sword is the meta. And once the meta is found, all of that complexity, all of those other 999 swords, they are just junk. They are not choices, they are traps. The game is solved for you. And then you have a game with very low complexity and near infinite depth. Chess, for example. 6 unique pieces, simple rules. People have been mastering it for centuries. Or as the dumpster party itself brought up, a game named Sekiro, for example. 1 sword, 1 arm, no elements, no team building, and yet it is a game that separates the rookies from the masters based purely on mechanical skill. So this person's argument that Wuthering Waves has low complexity, just parry or dodge, and therefore it has low depth, is baffling, right? Am I right? No? You don't think so? Because the community on Twitter, to its its credit, immediately saw the flaw in this. There is a meme on the quote tweets that ridicules this logic quite well, and you have seen it probably. It is the one that lists Genshin and Star Rail and other HoYo games with these complex, glowing descriptions. And then on the right side, it just lists Bloodborne as roll slop and Sekiro as L1 spam. And that meme perfectly illustrates his fallacy. By this person's logic, Sekiro, a game with one weapon, no elements, and no team building, is the shallowest game ever made. And well, that is just a ridiculous thing to say. And before you tweet out, oh, I never said that, I never said that. Like I said, it is based on what you said. It implies this. And this is just a bad faith premise. This person is, deliberately or not, judging an action game by the standards of a complex RPG. It is like complaining that your Tetris block doesn't have a good skill tree. And it is this fundamental misunderstanding, this category error, that fueled the entire war. So with that rubric in mind, let's look at this person's defense of Genshin. The proof for its death was, quote, elemental reactions and 10 different ways to play. And here's the thing, this person is not wrong. It's just mistaken about what they are describing, right? Let's be fair. Genshin Impact's combat is a masterpiece, wait for it, of preparation. Its depth is almost entirely systemic. The game of Genshin's combat, the part where the thinking happens, is played in the character menu. It is not on the battlefield. The fight is won or lost before you even get into the domain. The combat itself is often just victory lap. The genius of the whole thing is its elemental grammar. This is what this person was trying to get at with the mixing the pretty colors line. They probably meant it as an insult, like sarcasm, right? But it's actually kind of right. Just not in the way that they think, right? It's not mixing, it's chemistry. It is a complex math scientist puzzle of setting up, triggering, and reacting. To a point, the elemental reactions of Genshin Impact is pretty creative. The depth, though, isn't can I dodge this? The depth is when you realize that a healer everyone thought was C tier like 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 is somehow the single best triple S tier enabler for a completely new Hyper Bloom team. That is the theory crafting, right? When this person says Genshin has 10 different ways to play, they are correct. They are not talking about the fight. They're talking about the team comps. The Nilou Bloom team and the Raiden national team are two different ways to play. But the act of playing them, the button presses, is more often almost identical. EQ swap, EQ swap. And this is the trap. Genshin's high systemic depth, all of that team building, is held back by its abysmal mechanical depth. The skill ceiling for the fight itself, the button pressing, the dodging, is incredibly low. And this isn't an insult, it is a design choice. The game is meant to be accessible. Genshin Impact is the game that tries to pander to everyone. I think everyone knows this as well. The skill is in your brain, not your thumbs. But that choice has consequences. It puts the developers to a corner. When they need to make the game hard, how do they do it when they can't challenge your skills? Well, they use 3 lazy crutches. First, you have the use a bow to hit this weak point. You must use a Geo character to break the shield. You must use a lunar reaction character to efficiently kill this boss. This isn't depth. This is a chore list. It's a key and lock puzzle. And the game is asking, do you have the key? If you do, the door opens. If you can't, you can't. That is not a fight. It's a gear check. Second, you have the DPS check, right? The HP sponge. This is the community's #1 complaint. The boss doesn't challenge your mastery of the dance because there is no dance. The bosses just exist and challenges your stats. It is a test of your spreadsheet. How good are your artifacts? How good are your weapons? How much money you spent in the game? It is not testing your skill. It is testing your time or your luck or your paycheck. And third, and this is the worst one, related to the last one, you have the paywall, our glorious Great Wall of Paywall in China. This is St. Tontus's killer point from his 42-minute video.
This is the depth that they're talking about over here. There are certain enemies in the game where if you don't bring Nod Cry units, this is what happens to their HP bar as you fight them. Let's just watch this. You're noticing I'm damaging this mother, right? This is my gameplay. I'm damaging this guy, but he's also generating a gray HP bar. And you'll notice I kill him, right? I'm dealing damage to the gray HP bar after he's dead. He's still alive, by the way. And if I don't kill him in time, bro respawns with however much HP I wasn't able to clear on the gray bar. So you essentially have to kill these guys like 7 or 8 or 9 times. And this is with a 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆𝗵𝗁, by the way. Look at what it looks like when you simply just use a Nod Cry unit like you're supposed to. So right here, the Nod Cry units have a special passive where they will go ahead and deal damage to the gray HP bar at the same time as they're dealing damage to the regular HP bar. And so what that means is that every Nod Cry unit only has to kill them one time. While if you're not using Nod Cry units, you have to kill these guys like 3 or 4 times.
The boss that respawns 9 times unless, and you knew there was an unless, you have the new character. Hey, bravo! This is the worst sin of all because it's not a challenge. It is a sales pitch. It actively invalidates its own systemic depth. It says all that clever team building you did for like 1,000 hours, all of those other keys that you collected, they're useless here. Just buy this new key, the very recent key that is just so much better than all of the other keys. This is the 1,000 swords one is best problem. And you have to understand, right? The more paywalls there are, the shallower the mechanics. It's to the point where it feels like Genshin is actively creating shallowness to push for more revenue. So the verdict for Genshin, it has immense team building depth. It is a pretty good RPG puzzle, but the combat itself, right? The fight is often just a glorified victory screen for the real game you already played in the character menu. This person was defending a spreadsheet, not a fight. And that brings us to the other contender. We have Wuthering Waves. This is the polar opposite. It is not a game of preparation. It is a game of performance. It is all about mechanical depth. And the promise of this depth, the core of what it's selling, is actually found in this person's original complaint. This person said, the game is just memorize and parry. And he meant it as an insult probably, which is the most revealing, self-owning critique of the whole drama. He is literally describing the combat of other games like Sekiro or Furi or any high skill action game and calling it shallow. This person accidentally describing why people like action games, which is, wow, caught in 4K, am I right? The dance, the memorization, the parrying is the depth. It is a constant, high stakes, risk versus reward framework. Every time a boss swings at you, you have a choice. Choice 1, dodge. This is low risk. You press the button, you're safe. You get to keep fighting. Choice 2, perfect dodge. This is medium risk, medium reward. You press it at the right time, you get a little slow-mo. You get a free counter attack. You feel better about yourself. You feel good. And then choice 3, parry. This is high risk, high reward. This is the big one. You have to attack into the enemy's attack. Your attack button becomes your defend button. But if you mistime it, you get punished. And most of the time, you get punished heavily. You eat the full damage. And if it's an enemy like 𝗿𝗵 you will get grappled and you will get slammed like Loki by Hulk. Or if it's the Morning Ace, you will literally get penetrated without consent. But if you succeed, you hear that beautiful and you will get a massive reward. You destroy a part of their vibration bar, their stagger bar. And that bar, that is the in-fight strategic layer. That is the Genshin elemental reaction puzzle, but it's happening in real time. The question in your head is never, what element am I? The question is, do I risk this parry now? Or should I save my energy? Or should I swap in my other character? Do I do an intro skill or do I do a parry or something like that, and break the bar away? These are the real-time meaningful choices. This is depth. It is a suggestion, not a requirement. And just when you thought this was over, it wasn't. The dumpster party had one final absurd act. After this person's goalpost shift against St. Tontis, they still wasn't done. They had to really prove their point that Wuthering Waves' combat was shallow and didn't matter. So this guy posts another clip, and this one is special. This person takes an S6 𝗿𝗖𝗍, and for those who don't know, that is a max constellation character, a whale tier unit, and it's a character specifically designed to be a tank. 𝗿𝗖𝗍 scales on HP, and then this guy takes this god mode character into a weekly boss fight. Not a hard content, mind you, not the hologram. The easy farmable content that everyone is supposed to clear, bro. What the? Oh my god. And in the clip, this guy just mashes one button, intentionally tanking every hit. And this guy's point, presumably, is, see, you don't need to dodge or parry. The combat is shallow. I killed the boss, so it must be doing it right. Bro, why? This guy used a max power tank on easy mode, played in the dumbest way humanly possible, and the game still almost killed him. I'm done, bro. This guy accidentally disproved their own point. They proved that if you don't engage with the mechanics, if you just stand there and mash the button, the game will punish you. Even on easy mode, with a maxed out whale character, bro, I'm done. It's a level of bad faith that is just honestly kind of impressive. It is the perfect, absurd ending to the entire drama. It is the checkmate in this 4D chess game against themselves. And it's just so bad baffling that a fighting game guy backed this guy up. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, after all that, right? After the tweets, after the 42-minute video, the comebacks, the goalpost shifting, the S6 tank test, who actually has better combat depth? Well, the truth is, the question is flawed. It is a category error. It is like asking if a grandmother that has wheels, it would have been a better bike. If you don't get the reference, you're not cultured. One is an RPG that has a combat depth. The other is an action game that has RPG systems. But let's be direct. Let's just answer the question everyone is actually asking, right? Genshin Impact has deeper systems. Wuthering Waves, hear me out, has deeper combat depth. Let's go. And that's it. That's the answer. The entire dumpster party exists simply because the Genshin side, led by this guy, mistook complexity for depth. This guy held up this complex RPG, looked at streamlined action game and called it shallow for not being a complex RPG. It doesn't make sense. And as we just saw, this guy was willing to post blatantly bad faith evidence to try and prove this guy's point and still fail. And Wuthering Waves side, like Saint Antis, kind of struggled to defend that mechanical depth when his own gameplay, let's say the failed parries and the air juggle avoidance, gave the trolls a perfect ready-made counter argument. They said, it doesn't matter, no skill. Like intentionally nitpicking the points. It's just like clown behavior, bro. But why does any of this matter, right? Why does this debate keep happening? Is this just tribalism? Just the fans being bored because Wuthering Waves patch is dry, because Genshin patch is dry? I think it's a symptom of a much larger, much more interesting problem. Think about it. The Genshin community is bored. Many of them have solved the systems. They have built the teams, they have min-maxed the spreadsheets, and they have hit a wall. They are left with nothing. The paywall bosses are a sign of this. It is what happens when a developer knows they can't challenge player skill, so they just challenge their wallets. A lot of those players are craving the mechanical depth they see in Wuthering Waves, but the Wuthering Waves community is defensive because their game's entire identity is that mechanical skill. Let's imagine that their whole identity, all of that depth they're defending, is just an illusion because the depth depends on your skill. And if people say that your skill doesn't matter, actually, it would hurt a bit, I could imagine. And that is what makes this person's final trolling tweet so accidentally brilliant. This guy stumbled into the real question, the one that Wuthering Waves developers, not its fans, have to answer. Does your deep combat systems actually matter? Do you think that matters? How they answer that will determine the future of the entire genre, not just the game. But tell me what you all think. I'm actually so curious on what you all think. So leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But that is all from me, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!